Haru everyone, and welcome to White Solidarity with Black Power Live, hosted by the African People's Solidarity Committee. Today we are having a discussion on the history of the U.S. secret police attacks against the African liberation movement in this country and around the world, and why we as white people can and must stand as a buffer between the colonial state and the African Revolution, especially important following the FBI attacks on the African People's Socialist Party and Uhuru movement that took place last month on July 29th, 2022. My name is Hallie Murray. I am the Midwest Regional Representative of the African People's Solidarity Committee, and it's truly an honor to be emceeing this webinar tonight. Thank you everyone for being here. So just to say a little bit about us, the African People's Solidarity Committee, APSC, is an organization of white people created by the African People's Socialist Party over 40 years ago as part of the overall strategy for liberation of African people. We salute the African People's Socialist Party, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who is our leadership. And before we get started, if you are tuning in on YouTube, make sure to like and subscribe to get the alerts from the Uhuru Solidarity channel, alerts whenever we go live or post new videos. This is the analysis that we can only get right here, understanding the world through the eyes of the African working class. So let's get this out to the white population. If you're tuning in on Facebook, please like and share this video with your friends and on your live stream, and let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from. We're also on Zoom, so please, say Uhuru, what your name and where you're tuning in from, so we can give you a shout out later. We will have a question and answer period at the end, so please take notes, put your questions in the chat. We'd love to have this be an open discussion to talk about all this. So again, we just really want to salute our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who developed the political theory of African internationalism and who represents the leadership of the African Revolution all around the world. We also want to salute Deputy Chair Ona Zane Yeshitela, who puts the chairman's vision and theory of the Black Power blueprint right here on the ground in St. Louis and in many other places around the world. She leads more than 50 economic institutions of the African People's Socialist Party. And I also want to welcome and salute Chairwoman Penny Hess. She's chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, who answered the call back in 1976, answered the call for white people to take a stand on the right side of history and get organized under the leadership of the African working class. Chairwoman Penny will be leading our study tonight about colonialism and breaking down, what is happening with the FBI's attack on the Black liberation movement. And I also want to welcome Jesse Neville. He's chair of APSC's mass organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. And before we get started into our program tonight, we want to begin with a short video about the FBI attacks. It's about 3 minutes long, and it has footage of what has happened. If you're not aware, we're going to play that video right now. This was just over a month ago on July 29th in St. Louis, Missouri and St. Petersburg, Florida. So let's turn to the video.
This is the FBI. You have a federal warrant for this address. Keep your hands up and follow orders. This is the FBI. We have a warrant for this.
They handcuffed me and my wife out here. They wanted me to sit on the curb while they were carrying this out, something that I refused to do. They wanted my wife to sit on the curb out here, that she refused to do.
As I was coming out, this big old drone met me.
The only revolutionary organization that's done something here on the ground practically for African people is the one that's come under attack. Institution that offers a community radio station, a newspaper, a commercial kitchen, an Aquaba Hall rental space, and community office for our organizers. That was the building that has come under attack.
You need a breach? What do you need?
Need one.
I don't know.
Let's hold that with money.
Hold on.
Thank you.
We will build a movement of white people that says hands off the Uhuru movement.
They see in the African People's Socialist Party a vanguard for the struggle for the liberation of our people. They see that because not just what we do here in the United States, but because we had the temerity to do like Garvey, to do like Malcolm X, and take the struggle of black people around the world.
Uhuru. Well, that was a really powerful video, and we are just going to turn it right over to our discussion tonight. So really just want to welcome Chair Jesse and Chairwoman Penny Hess. Uhuru.
Uhuru, Uhuru, everybody. Thank you so much for coming tonight. This is a very, very critical and important discussion that we're going to have, and we want you to join in and spread this word. Really want to thank you, Hallie, want to salute Jesse, and as always, I want to begin by saluting our leadership, Chairman Omali Yeshitela. And as Hallie said, I have the honor of being the chair of the African People's Solidarity Committee, the organization of white people that was formed by the African People's Socialist Party that is fighting for the liberation of Africa and African people everywhere. An ambitious goal, but in a goal that is inevitable, and the party is winning. And as part of their strategy to win the liberation of Africa and African people, the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela formed the African People's Solidarity Committee and our organization, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, to be a strategic extension of the African Revolution inside the belly of the beast, behind enemy lines, as the chairman says, in the white society, in the white community, fighting for reparations to African people, and being not just a support committee, not just, it's certainly not charity or anything like that, but having and organizing and winning white people to be the voice of Black power in white face. And this is really the first time in history that that has ever happened. So we're going to be talking about that tonight and really explaining the significance of it. And this is why I have to begin by saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela, because, you know, he has fought, he is relentless. He solved all the problems of the revolution that were left unresolved. Subsequent to the counterinsurgency, the COINTELPRO, against the Black Revolution of the 1960s, and took it on because he was determined to spend his life doing everything possible to complete the Black Revolution of the 60s and actually make real and make it possible to win the African Revolution, to create the science, the organization, the will, the political understandings to do that. And it's really profound. And I do believe, Jesse, that there are many, many other white people who want to understand this science, who see the world and the crisis of the system all around us, who see the intense and unending colonial violence against African people and oppressed people around the world, and African people meaning also inside the borders of the US, and who want to have a principled relationship to African people and the people on the planet Earth, and see that as the future, and understand that this is not charity. Again, this is not a sideline thing. This is the central question. And Chairman Omali Yeshitela has fought for that for his whole life. Relentless is the word for the chairman. And he built the African People's Socialist Party, brought the science. And I also want to salute Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela, who is the coordinator of the incredible Black Power Blueprint program, and more than 50, I think it's more like 60 economic, political institutions of the African People's Socialist Party that is the foundation of an African workers' economy that can negate an economy that was built at its expense. So I think that's really, really important.
Definitely. Uhuru, Chairwoman Penny.
Uhuru.
I'm really glad to be a part of this discussion, very honored to be here with you. And I want to join you in saluting Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela and the African People's Socialist Party and the strategy of building the Solidarity Committee, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, to extend the African Revolution behind enemy lines into the colonizer population. And also want to salute you, Chairwoman Penny, and it's an honor to be under your leadership as a member of the African People's Solidarity Committee. And I want to welcome everybody who is joining this and unite with the call to get the word out and do what you can to share this, promote this, text the link to people that you know. Let's get more people in this discussion, because if you are joining this and this is your first time participating in one of our events, or even if you're someone who's already a member, the goal tonight is not just that you will have listened to this discussion and agreed with it and said, those are some good points that they made, but you will be compelled to take action. You will be compelled to join. You will be compelled to get involved in the work under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party to build this campaign to defend the African People's Socialist Party and the right of African people to organize for their liberation. So I'm looking forward to this discussion.
Yes, me too. And thank you, Jesse. And the party has formed a huge defense committee called the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa Defense Committee, and everybody can be part of that, or you can start a branch of that in your own community.
Right.
You can build it. You can do whatever you do best. We're going to be raising a lot of resources. We're going to be keeping this question out there. So, we saw this video. We saw how just a little taste of the intensity of the colonial violence that we as white people, are used to reading about and seeing the colonial states' violence against African people. And that's both African people in everyday life, who are gunned down by the police, gunned down by the state. I just saw a poll by the Pew Trust that where African people, 44% of those polled from the African community said that they did not believe that the US could ever resolve the conditions faced by African people in this country. And that is so true because it's built on it. But it also listed something like 75% said that the police violence is one of the most serious issues that African people face. Because this is, the raw out there face of the state. And that's what we saw on July 29th. And, we're, like I said, we're used to reading about it, seeing what happens, knowing that doesn't happen to us.
Exactly.
And that's not something, that is an occurrence that we're used to at all. And I think that the reality is also, Jesse, that we read about and we see the history that in particular when African people rise up and fight for their people and fight for their liberation and power over their lives, not this false idea of fighting racism, which is basically something that justifies and legitimizes the US colonial domination over African people, then we see that African people are murdered, they're slaughtered, they're assassinated in Africa and here. And I've read books, I've seen movies, I've worked under the leadership of the chairman and then the African People's Socialist Party for almost a half a century myself. And, that this is real. When we see films of the state murdering Che Guevara and the just brutal assassination of Patrice Lumumba, and we see things from the 1960s with the murder of Malcolm X and Martin Luther King and Fred Hampton. But this is part of that same thing. This is an assault on the African Revolution. So we just want to reiterate a little bit about what we have seen in that video and talk about it a little bit more in the significance, because at 5 a.m. Central Time on the Friday morning of July 29th, before dawn, the FBI executed full-on violent assaults on the offices and homes of leaders and the Uhuru houses, or Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida, the Uhuru Solidarity Center here in St. Louis, and the homes, at least 5 other homes of leaders, and at the same time. So it was 6 a.m. in Florida, and it was 5 a.m. here, so that nobody could call and tell anybody what was going on. So it would just, everybody would have the shock and awe. And they executed, it was violent. They came in armored vehicles. It was well coordinated. You saw those pictures where you see almost like an army, marching in. That was the Uhuru House in St. Petersburg, Florida, that has been the center for the whole question of political and economic power in the hands of the African community there and around the world for 30 years, since the early 1990s. And it has been assaulted before. That was not the first time in that way. But this was, just really clearly something that was driven because the party fights for Africa and the liberation of Africa. It's not local. It's not a single issue. It's an anti-colonial struggle and stand that is being taken on. And that is so significant. And so we saw a little bit about it. We heard the chairman talking about it. These raids involved, they were carrying assault weapons. They had the red sighting laser pointed at the chairman's chest as he came down the stairs. They had drones, they broke windows. They had electrified battering rams that just broke down the door. I mean, it was totally unnecessary. People would have opened the door.
Right.
It was, they did that on purpose. They did this to destroy, to demoralize, to make you have to spend a lot of money. They took computers, they took cell phones, and of course they took tons of files and archives that the African People's Socialist Party has had since its very inception, and even before, from when Chairman Omali Shatella was a member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, SNCC, in the mid-60s, and formed JOMO, the Junta of Militant Organizations that the chairman led in the late 1960s. So there's so much more that we could say about it. It's something, but that one of the points that we want to make is that the target for these raids was Chairman Omali Shatella, Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella, and the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. And yet there were 4 of us as white people who were also raided.
Right.
And this is a really, really important thing that we want to discuss, and we're going to talk about tonight. What does that mean, and why that was important that happened. So Jesse.
Yeah, I mean, I just appreciate being able to recount this for anyone who's not familiar with what actually happened on July 29th. As you were saying, it was, I think there's these ideas white people might have about what the FBI showing up at your door might look like some guy with a briefcase and a suit showing you his badge and telling you he has a warrant. That is not what happened on July 29th at any of these locations. And it was, as you described it at our press conference, they created a wave of destruction throughout every building they went into, especially the chairman's house. I mean, the chairman did a tour of his house for the media and showed all the shattered windows and places where the drone had gone in, where they blew up these flashbang grenades and caused all this damage. And as you mentioned, Penny, the fact that the raids, they were targeting, it was a concerted, concentrated attack on the leadership of the African Revolution, Chairman Omali Shatella and Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella. And in Director Akile Anai in St. Petersburg, Florida, they went to the place where she was staying. Obviously, they had been spying on her. They went to the place where she was staying and they lied to her and told her that somebody had broken into her car. And then they brought her outside and did the same thing to her and raided her car and took all of her phone and computer and all kinds of stuff like that. And then it was, on the south side of St. Louis, which is the predominantly white community, the FBI came to this very building where we are right now, the Uhuru Solidarity Center, which is owned by the African People's Socialist Party, which is a party institution, which is the Black Power blueprint in the white community, an organizing space for reparations, which, by the way, in a few days, it'll be the 1-year anniversary of when we moved into this. That's and had the honor to start organizing out of here. Yes. And in just under a year, this place has become a touchstone in this community. Yeah. People love it. White people see it and respect it. Salute it. Come to events, drive by it every day. We have a huge banner that says Unity Through Reparations right out front. And people have come in, people have actually done U-turns to park in front and come in and ask what it's about. And it's become a known thing in the community that people respect and want to be a part of. Yeah. And that's why the FBI found it necessary to come in and attack the reparations center of the African People's Socialist Party in the white community. As the chairman has said, and also attacking the leader of the Solidarity Committee, Chairwoman Penny Hess, as well as a leading member of APSC, Kitty Riley, at their homes. And Amanda Carlozzi and myself, who are also members of the African People's Solidarity Committee, we live in the apartment above the Solidarity Center. So we were targeted by these raids as well. But as you mentioned, Chairwoman Penny, this kind of thing, this while it happened to the four of us on that morning, this is not the kind of thing that you see in the white community ever. And drones and flashbang grenades and SWAT teams and assault rifles is the norm in the African community. Every single day, African people have to face the raw terror of the colonial state. We never see that in the white community. And the only reason why we saw it that day is because it was an attack on the party. It was an attack on the chairman, and it was an attack on the strategy of the party to win white people under its leadership and into the struggle against colonialism.
Yeah, to try to intimidate support. I mean, they were out here on a major street, Gravois Avenue, for 6.5 hours.
6.5 hours.
With the armored and the, you know, the whole thing, and a whole, with their battering ram connected to the armored car and all the things that they did. And they broke the doors down, as you saw. We had to replace that. And they, you know, here was our banner, unity through reparations. And even one comrade who, you know, saw it, was doing a gig job and just did a U-turn and came back to make sure everybody was okay. And it was there to try to discredit it. We had just done a series of what we call drops, putting flyers on several neighborhoods around here. What 7,000 or 8,000?
8,500
flyers we dropped over a period of weeks, and it was very exciting to do, and had tremendous support. People really appreciated that. And we had just done that, and I think that was very important because it lets people know who we are. We're the organization under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and we're about reparations in the white community, and just the outpouring of support. And yeah, so I just think that it's we want to talk more about why it was so important that this happened to white people, because in a way it is a kind of buffer. It is, you know what it is? It's the strategy of the chairman of the party to extend the African Revolution in behind enemy lines is a military tactic in a way. It's saying, you know, this is security, this is protection. And we have one of their own, you know, we have some of their own here. And and they're on, you know, we jumped off that pedestal, and that's where we want to be. We see the African Revolution as our future as well. It's not something that we do as a sideline thing or a marginal thing or any of these, you know, sort of concepts that we can have in our brain that we are the real revolution, and then there's this African Revolution over there. But we're going to talk about why is the African Revolution the central question for everyone who hates this imperialism, this colonialism, this war, this Pentagon, this constant, how many wars is the US in right now? All the places it's bombing and droning and overturning democratically elected governments, etc. It's just all around the world. And we see what is happening to African people right in front of our eyes. We hate it. I know so many other white people do too, do not want to be connected to the state that is doing that, but yet we are, and that's why we have to take this on. I just also wanted to say, Jesse, that there is the website called handsoffuhuru.org that has collected so many of the incredible media interviews done by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who's just for a month now has been nonstop going, you know, being interviewed sometimes 3 times a day, and powerful and getting the word out. And some of them, like the Fox News, you saw a little bit of that press conference on the very day. I mean, within an hour after the end of the raids, the chairman held a press conference in front of his home in the most impoverished neighborhood of North St. Louis. And that which has been posted, that press conference has been posted on the Fox News website locally here in St. Louis, and it has over 600,000 views, which is twice the population of the city. So this has really gone viral. And also the chairman was on a powerful interview on Democracy Now! And that's been seen almost 300,000 times around the world. So, you know, there are just literally thousands of people who have expressed their solidarity, their support, who have contacted the party, who have come forward and wanted to join and donate and do all of the things that are necessary to fight this colonial attack in such an important way. So let's talk about, you know, why we are white people who were raided by the FBI and you know, why it's so important.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the point you were making about how the party, the African People's Socialist Party, extending the African Revolution into the white community is a military strategy, and the brilliance of that. And the fact that the FBI found it necessary to go into the homes and living rooms and bedrooms of white people as part of their attack on the African Revolution is because the chairman and the party have put the African Revolution in the homes and living rooms and bedrooms of white people.
Right.
They've extended the revolution into the white community. And what the US government would prefer is that things went down this time around the way they did in the 1960s, where it was out of sight, out of mind for white people, even those who might have been galvanized and out in the streets protesting Vietnam War or even supporting the Black Panther Party. Once the guns came out, the US government's guns came out blazing and murdering African people, and they went in and killed.
White people were out of there.
Yeah, that was it. That was, you know, white.
The chairman always says, you know, white people in the 60s, after they saw the murders of Fred Hampton and others, they took a bath.
Exactly.
Cut their hair, went to law school, got a job, went right up on the pedestal of the oppression of African people, right into the role of the colonizer, which we are. And that's really critical,
you
know, in this whole understanding. And there's a few things I want to talk about tonight, but one of the things, and we want to talk about what the FBI is, what it has done, and we're going to talk about what some of the main points and goals of the COINTELPRO program, which was the counterintelligence program of the FBI in the 1960s, particularly trained against the African Revolution, the Black Power movement of the 1960s, and just, you know, worked to devastate it and did in so many ways. And it wasn't the only agency, but it was one of the key agencies that is best known right now. And that this is the FBI that just, you know, invaded the African People's Socialist Party there. So we want to talk about that in a minute, but I want to say that one of the things that's so exciting about the analysis that Chairman Omali Yeshitela has given us, his understanding of African internationalism and this whole, irrefutable analysis of history, which is, it just can't be denied, is that Europe came out of poverty, came out of feudalism, came out of an oppressive system based on Europe's assault on Africa and turning African people into commodities, the first commodities of the capitalist system. This is what the stock markets were built on. How much was an African human being worth on the Amsterdam stock market, or the City of London, which is the British stock market, or Wall Street? All of these places are literally on the docks where the slave ships came in. It certainly is in London, it is in New York. Wall Street was where the ships came in. And then very much, this was happening in New York City. And people think it wasn't, but yes, there was enslavement there and played a key role in that. And this is how Wall Street started there. This was how wealth came into Europe and began to transform the economy from one of just serfs and poverty, and even the nobility were poor, as Jaron said. Most white people were extremely poor. and created wealth for the first time. It was through this assault on Africa, the kidnapping of African human beings, the forced labor, the ability of former serfs and workers in Europe to suddenly have the power of life and death over any African person.
Right.
In Africa or here. And that it was also based on the genocide against the indigenous people, a popular genocide that most white people participated in. The US government actually couldn't have carried it out or enforced the enslavement of African people without the popular mass participation of white people that and that carried out this violence, that lynched, that burnt, that stole everything that African people accumulated, that murdered brutally indigenous people and cut babies out of the wombs of African indigenous people. Just, so many crimes that is in the DNA of white people in this country that we have participated in. We wonder why all of these school shootings and mass shootings are taking place. This is our history.
Right.
This is what was done to Africans and indigenous people. And so when it comes back to, turned in upon itself, people are shocked. Why is this happening? This is happening because this is what America is. This is what the chairman calls the colonial mode of production. So I want to talk about that concept and why it is so much more scientific and freeing, liberating for us as well as white people than the question of racism.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a key point. And the Chairman Omali Yeshitela, has really developed just groundbreaking understandings and analysis of what colonialism really is. And the party has always put out the definition of colonialism as being the total domination of an entire colonized population or a nation by a colonizer nation, by the oppressor nation, enforced by the colonial state for the economic exploitation and political advantage, for the benefit, for the profit of the colonizer at the expense of the colonized. And there's been a way that white people and historians and socialists, whatever, leftists, have tried to treat that as a policy, something that Europe maybe does from time to time. Maybe France did that in Algeria, or maybe, the British did that in parts of Africa or something like that. But the chairman is like, no, it's not a policy. It's the basis for the whole world economy.
Right.
It's a mode of production. So that anything that's produced in this world, in the world economy, is produced through colonialism. There's nothing that you can take out of the context of colonialism. And that's everything from, the food that we eat, the clothes we wear, to the ideas that are produced in our brains. When we look in the mirror, what we see looking back at us itself is a product of the colonial mode of production. And it's absolutely key.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It really turns history right side up. And it's a concept that the chairman has been putting out, as we said, since, for more than 50 years. And it is, now you're starting to hear more about colonialism. Right. You're starting to see more of that actual word on, in the newspaper and the New York Times and other kinds of things. The chairman has forced that into, the lingua franca, I guess they say, of the United States. But the thing that's really critical to understand is that it is not a policy.
Right.
It is the essence of what the system is. And that is something that is being grasped by African and colonized people around the world, and understanding that it's white people, this tiny minority of the world's population, which owes everything it has to Africans and colonized people. And as the chairman said, there wouldn't be an America without the enslavement of African people and the theft of the indigenous land. I mean, of course not. It's not usually a lot of, they tell us, and you hear professors or teachers learn it, in school and all this kind of thing, that basically America is the land of the American dream and the ability to walk up the ladder of success, and that, but there's a few blights on the soul of America. There's bad stains, but the fact is that it's not a blight on the soul of America. It is America. There wouldn't be America. It's the essence of it. That's what it means when we say that the colonialism is the mode of production. So it doesn't, like you said, everything we have, even the ideas in our heads, is based on the material reality that we are the colonizers. We are the colonial nation. We are sitting on the backs of African and indigenous and colonized people all around the world. There is a pedestal upon which we sit. And we don't get rid of that by thinking good thoughts. And we don't get rid of it by taking, a week-long workshop and then going home and, to where we live in the colonizer neighborhood. It doesn't go away that way. It doesn't go away because you want everybody to think about this and take up an idea, and then maybe something will change. It's not going to change until this system is brought down, and it can't be brought down until the leadership of African and colonized people who make up the pedestal upon which we sit lead the struggle, which they are doing. This is what the party is doing. It's leading the struggle against this system. It's not making any kind of friends or compromise with the system, although it can work on many fronts, including the electoral front and other kinds of things. But it has one goal: liberate Africa and African people everywhere. And that means reparations as a total turning over of the stolen resources, not a one-time payout, not something that is a stopgap or reform measure, but it's a revolutionary demand. And that's what we have to understand. And I think that what the chairman has said that's so important, and I know that we have to really struggle for the ways to say it and to open it up. But as the chairman has been saying, the existence of the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Huru Solidarity Movement is the opportunity for true class struggle for white people, because and pay attention to this, because the true working class in the world, the chairman says, in the whole world, is inside the colonial contradiction, which means that colonized people are the workers, not white people. Yeah, there's white people who are not rich or work, to some extent. But the thing is that all white people sit on this pedestal and experience life as the colonizer, as we are the foreign and alien power, sitting on the backs of everybody else, and that there's no way that white workers or white working people are going to be a conscious class to overturn imperialism, because every struggle of white people who experience contradictions with the society, and that is real. We can, as women, as LGBTQ, as workers, as environment, all of these contradictions are real, but white people are generally working to resolve them within the status quo of a system built on slavery and blood and rape and pillage. And that is not going to change anything except for white people. And I think that it's really, like we said earlier, that it's really just an important question that African people in this poll are saying: United States is never going to solve our problems. Because they're coming to the conclusion that African people have to take power over their lives. And that's what Chairman Omali Shatella has fought for for his entire adult life.
Right. Yeah, I think the point about class struggle is
Mhm.
extremely important for us to understand. And, the chairman has talked about how in the white world, what has historically been considered or characterized as class struggle, and he's acknowledged that there have been times the white workers, so-called, have engaged in huge battles with the ruling class, but not to overturn the system, not to overturn the colonial system, but to actually basically compete with the colonial capitalist ruling class for access to the stolen
Yeah.
resources of African people. That's what class struggle has been traditionally, whether you're talking about the so-called French Revolution, obviously the American Revolution, or even more recently in this country, things like Occupy Wall Street or the Bernie Sanders movement was basically an effort by one sector of the white population to engage in a contest with another sector of the white population for control of African people's stolen resources. That's what has been considered class struggle historically, which is not class struggle. It's basically just intra-colonial struggle. Real class struggle for white people is under the leadership of the African working class, which, as you said, is the true working class, is the true vanguard for all working and exploited peoples around the world. And, thinking about class struggle as opposed to this other concept I've heard the chairman talk about, class peace. And class peace is what white people take for granted in our lives every single day. Just being able to not see what's happening to African people and not see what's happening to Mexican people at the border, the so-called border, the illegitimate colonial border, or indigenous people who are dying. I saw this thing about the life expectancy rate in this country going way down for the first time in years. And it's mostly indigenous people that they're talking about, and so on and so forth. But, and the class peace is disrupted and disturbed by the extension of the African Revolution into the white population through the African People's Solidarity Committee and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. The colonial class peace white people take for granted and otherwise assume and enjoy in our lives is disrupted by the presence of this building, the Uhuru Solidarity Center. And that's why they found it necessary to crash through the doors with battering rams. That was class struggle. That was class war that was happening right here in the white community. And it's so powerful to be a part of it. And it's like you were saying, like everything we hate about this social system, which is everything about it. I mean, I can't think of anything I like about this social system. It's absolutely monstrous. I mean, everything from the just the essence of it, the violence, the individualism, the degradation of women and children, everything you see in the media. I mean, the suicide and depression that is very understandable why people would feel that way. Mental illness, the environmental catastrophe, oppression of people based on the way they identify in terms of gender and sexuality. I mean, all of this stuff, there's nothing to like about it. The healthcare system, which is an atrocity.
The homelessness.
The homelessness.
I mean, in so many colonized places in the world, there is no homelessness because people take care of other human beings in the society.
Exactly.
And the same with, there's no such thing, as the chairman says, of a foster care system, because people take care of children. But not here.
Exactly.
If you can't pay, some incredible amount of money for rent, you live on the street. And that's a reality. That's the basis of the kind of society that we live in.
Exactly. And all of those things that we detest about this social system, they all revolve around the fundamental antagonism in the social system, which is the class struggle. That's like the engine for everything else you hate about this system. It emanates from the class struggle, which is between it's between the African Revolution and parasitic capitalism, or colonial capitalism, as the name of the chairman's book, The Uneasy Equilibrium. It's between the African working class and colonized peoples of the world and the colonial mode of production. And only when that class struggle is resolved through the victory of the African working class will there be peace and healing for the planet Earth and the end of all of these other hideous realities. So
Yeah.
that's the class struggle for white people under the leadership of the party is the future. That's our future.
It is the future, and it is really our redemption. It's
Yes.
our liberation, if you could
Yes.
say. Because if you look at it scientifically, the pedestal has to come down.
Right.
What else could it be?
Mhm.
You know, and it's not, and those sitting on the pedestal are not going to tear the pedestal
Right.
down.
Exactly.
We don't even think about it.
Right.
You know, like we say, we don't see it. We have the ability to see this parallel universe,
Mhm.
literally, that
Mhm.
we live in.
Right.
This, and you look at any, look at any city. You
Right.
certainly look at St. Louis and
Yeah.
look at North St. Louis or parts of the South St. Louis
Yeah.
where African people live versus Tower Grove neighborhood or
Right.
Forest Park neighborhood
Yeah.
or Shaw or all these,
Mhm.
tree-lined, beautiful old houses where white people live. And it's two realities. And this is the town of the Delmar Divide,
Right.
and it's very stark. But St. Louis is such that you're on a street with mansions, and right around the corner, almost anywhere, any part of the city, there are impoverished African people.
Right.
And, because it's at least 50-50 in terms of population, if not more Africans
Mhm.
than white people here. And this is the thing that scientifically makes sense. Pedestal has to be overturned.
Yeah.
And it has to be overturned by those who experience it, who live it, who are in it, who make up the pedestal.
Right.
It's not going to happen any other way. There's no way in physics or in society that can happen.
Mhm.
And so it makes sense. And if we are looking at the angst and the depression and all of the things that white people experience and do experience,
Right.
because we are isolated, because like the chairman says, that we have participated in self-imposed isolation from the rest of the world by living this life in which we are immediately enlisted to be, the shock troops,
Mhm.
or at least complicit with the attacks and the violence against African people and everybody else that it takes to make every minute of every day that we live in.
Right.
And so it's not a happy thing. And we do want a better future. And we do want an honest relationship to African people.
Mhm.
We want an honest relationship to indigenous people and others, not by appropriating their culture or, going to live in Mexico or, just as a colonizer, or all the things that white people fantasize of doing.
Right.
But it's about, being here
Mhm.
and being part of an incredible historical journey and trajectory that is led by Africans who have experienced this, whose genius has gone to feed us and to make us be able to live and go to college and do all the things that we think is from us. No,
Right.
it is from the human people, the human bodies
Yeah.
under us,
Right.
under our feet, that have given their life so that we could live.
Right.
And that is really, talk about unsustainable.
Yeah.
And it's
Exactly.
destroying the actual earth itself. So, this is the way. And I want to really say it in the best way. I want us to understand that the African Revolution is our revolution.
Mhm.
Because there are people who still think that, I don't know, the Green Party is going to make the revolution. No, it's not. It's not. And I just think in every way, Chairman Omali Shatella and all of the leadership of the party and deputy chair, these are real people.
Yeah.
They take responsibility for leading the revolution out there publicly
Mhm.
every day. And Africans do that. That's
Right.
why they're targeted.
Exactly.
But look on, and I do go around and do this sometimes. I look on the internet like, well, where's the leadership of so-and-so socialist so and whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's
Very
nobody, there's no
mysterious.
name, there's no
Yep.
picture,
Mhm.
there's no National Central Committee, there's no chair, there's nobody.
Mhm.
So nobody takes responsibility for it. It's basically underground. It's not serious
Mhm.
about being among the people to say who they are, you know, to say what they're fighting for. But the African Revolution is open, public, you know, just passionately there and brilliantly out there fighting for the liberation of African people and all people who want to come with them. And I want to come with them.
Yes, me too.
That is the future. That is
Yes.
the future. There's believing the system is not going to save this planet.
No.
You know, we see the climate change and what it means. It's already the entire city of Jackson, Mississippi has
Yeah.
no running water now,
Mhm.
you know, and it's 80% African
Right.
city. And the white governor is consciously, you know, doing this and inflicting it, but it's from the contradictions of colonialism and climate change.
Right, exactly.
You know, coming together, and the world is changing, and it's not going to be a little dream world for white people.
No.
The world is changing, and it's the resistance of African people against a system that needs to suck the blood of the oppressed and colonized to function that has it in the crisis that it's in. And Chairman has laid that out so brilliantly and so clearly.
Absolutely. Well, I know we have about maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Maybe we can look at the COINTELPRO.
Yeah, I
Talk
wanted
about that a little bit.
I wanted to talk about that, but I would also like to I would really like to have another whole event
Yeah.
on the history of the FBI and what it means, and to say that the FBI was really founded to attack the movement of Marcus Garvey,
Right.
which is, white people don't know about Marcus Garvey.
No.
And I would like to create a PowerPoint or even show some video of what that movement was in the 1920s, before the advent of social media and the internet, that Garvey built a movement of 11 million African people around the world, in the United States, in the Caribbean, continent of Africa, and other places where African people are, into this. I mean, think about that, you know, just an organization that has 11 million members of African people fighting for Africa, fighting for the liberation and return of Africa and its stolen resources into the hands of African people. So the FBI was started, and actually J. Edgar Hoover got his start joining the FBI to be part of the attack on Marcus Garvey, that imprisoned him in federal prison on a totally made up charge of mail fraud.
Right.
And you know, he spent a few years in the prison, in the federal prison, I think in Atlanta.
Yes.
And then, you know, his organization was crushed.
Yeah.
And they did everything to divide it and, you know, pit certain sectors of the Garvey movement against others, and do everything to destroy the economic fabric of that, which was really about, you know, building the anti-colonial economy of the African working class. So that's something that we'd like to go into more, and everything that they have done to attack African people who are struggling. But I do want to read some of the points, of the goals of the COINTELPRO program of the 1960s that was, you know, put out, and which really, you know, clearly understood that the Black Power movement, the Black Panther Party, was the greatest internal threat to the security of the United States, they said, since the Civil War, far more than the white left has ever understood.
Right.
That the centrality of the African Revolution was clearly grasped by the US government. So Yeah, so I don't know if
Sure.
you have this open, if
Yes,
you want
I
to
do.
read some of these.
So these points, the goals of the COINTELPRO, the counterinsurgency program initiated by the FBI, this is taken from a memo that was sent by J. Edgar Hoover to Tampa, or not to, I'm sure it went to Tampa, but
It did.
to FBI field offices
Yeah.
throughout the United States. And these were the instructions that were given to FBI field offices. One, to prevent the coalition of militant Black nationalist groups. In unity, there is strength, a truism that is no less valid for all its triteness. An effective coalition of Black nationalist groups might be the first step towards a real Mau in America, the beginning of a true Black revolution.
And let me just say, and the Chairman Omali Shatella is the chairman of the Black is Back Coalition
Yes.
for justice, peace, social justice, peace, and reparations.
Yes.
And it is how many scores of African organizations who unite with the goal of self-determination
Right.
and reparations for African people are part of that.
Right, exactly. And also the Uhuru movement, the name Uhuru comes from the slogan
struggle
of the
in
Kenya
Kenya.
Land and Freedom
Yes.
Army, who were referred to as the Mau Mau.
Yes.
And when we were here, Amanda and I were here, and the federal agents were ransacking this building, we were sitting there looking at a party poster that we have on the wall of Dedan Kimati, who was one of the field marshal for the Mau Mau, with his quote that said, "It's better to die on your feet than it's better to die on your feet than live on your knees."
Live on your knees, yeah.
Yes. So clearly they have not succeeded in destroying the emergence of the Mau Mau in America, the beginning of the true Black revolution. Their second goal was to prevent the rise of a messiah who would unify and electrify the militant Black nationalist movement. They wrote, Malcolm X might have been such a messiah. They had already assassinated him.
Yeah, it's so cynical to say that. They killed him.
Right, exactly. He is the martyr of the movement today. Martin Luther King, Stokely Carmichael, and Elijah Muhammad all aspire to this position. They then give their assessment. Elijah Muhammad is less of a threat because of his age. King could be a very real contender for this position should he abandon his supposed obedience to white liberal doctrines, nonviolence, and embrace Black nationalism. Carmichael has the necessary charisma to be a real threat in this way.
And Martin Luther King was killed within a year of this.
And within a year of beginning to question his obedience to white liberal doctrines such as nonviolence.
Right.
3, prevent violence on the part of Black nationalist groups. This is of primary importance and of course is a goal of our investigative activity. It should also be a goal of the counterintelligence program to pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them.
And I just want to say that actually, they say the opposite of what they mean because they instigate violent situations.
Yeah.
I mean, in addition to assaults, they instigate things that could escalate or even send agents in to create violence.
Exactly.
And so they use that to attack, the actual organization.
Exactly.
That is working to build political power for African people.
And this point, number 4, I think is very important to read and understand. And that is prevent militant Black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability by discrediting them to 3 separate segments of the community.
Yeah.
The goal of discrediting Black nationalists must be handled tactically in 3 ways. You must discredit those groups and individuals to first the responsible, quote, Negro community. Secondly, they must be discredited to the white community, both the responsible community and to liberals who have vestiges of sympathy for militant Black nationalists simply because they are, quote, Negroes. Third, these groups must be discredited in the eyes of Negro radicals, the followers of the movement. This last area requires entirely different tactics from the first 2. Publicity about violent tendencies and radical statements merely enhances Black nationalists to the last group and adds respectability in a different way. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. I mean, this is really important because when they are not able to destroy an organization or even don't have the ability politically to assassinate the people they want to, they bring out the slander.
Right.
They bring out the garbage. They make up anything that they want. And it's always been part of it, and it's going to be part of it.
Yep.
This struggle is not over.
Right.
You know, FBI didn't come one day and do all this and practically kill the chairman and deputy
Right.
chair and, you know, damage all the buildings and try to intimidate people, and then that's it.
Right.
You know, it's not over. It's not over. There's,
Right.
you know, the party is building a defense committee with lawyers, a legal front, which is very important. It's also going to be very, very expensive and need a lot of resources, and something that we want to get everybody involved in raising resources for. But they're going to bring out, they're going to do this.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to say things, they're going to do things, they're going to plant, just, you know, we can be prepared for that.
Yeah.
But the thing that I want to say to white people is that it's really easy for us to believe anything that might fuel some fear or, you know, hesitation that we would have about jumping in on the side of the African Revolution and the real revolution of the world.
Right.
And that what we have to do when we hear all kinds of things, and we've heard it before, is look at, where does the money go? Look at North St. Louis. Look at all the work the party does. It is incredibly transparent. You can see it on the ground. You can see it not just in North St. Louis, but in Philadelphia and Oakland, and you can see it in Africa and Gauteng province and Sierra Leone and other places where the party is building there. You can see the work that they're doing. So, you know, you can see that when you hear the slander. Look at the Burning Spear newspaper. I just put mine away. The Burning Spear newspaper and the platform of the party and what they stand for and what they believe, that was adopted in 1982 at the first conference, at the first Congress, 1981, I think it was, in the first Congress of the African People's Socialist Party held in Oakland. That it says what they believe in. This is what we're about. It's been in every single issue of the Burning Spear for all those years. And you can look at the articles in the Burning Spear. You can read the books of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. You can listen to the presentations. You can see the work that Uhuru Solidarity Movement puts out, what it is that we believe in, why we have to fight for reparations to African people and tell the truth about who we are and what our history is, and confront ourselves as the colonizers and the choice that we can make to forward the African Revolution in a truly principled way. This is what we have to come back to. We have to say that uniting with this slander it keeps us on the pedestal. It's like saying, okay, I'll just stay with as the colonizer. I'll just keep things the way they are, and this is my excuse for not doing something. They're not going to make it easy, because the chairman always says this, like, it was illegal to fight against slavery because slavery was legal. And you know, today it's all statues and people put forward, but they were murdered. I mean, you know, Denmark Vesey and Gabriel, as he was known, and Nat Turner and all of the great, they were killed. They were murdered for fighting against, you know, the enslavement of African people because it was legal. Colonialism is legal. This is what the entire legal system is built on in this country. So fighting against colonialism is illegal. In their eyes. And that's what the FBI is saying. You know, it's saying this is, you know, we'll make it up, they'll say. And they do, and they did. But this is, you know, this is a warning that, you know, this is not legal. This is not condoned under the system of what is called the United States of America. Under colonialism that exists. So, you know, we have to keep the teachings and the science of Chairman O'Malley Shatella in front of us. We have to study, we have to take it to other people, we have to massify it and talk to people about, seeing the world through the eyes of the oppressed, through the eyes of the colonized is so incredible. It's a whole world that is beautiful and empowering even to us in a really important way. So, just want to say that we have to be there. We have to be strong. We have to have principles that have to do with what we believe ourselves, that this is correct. This is the science. This is the truth. We have to go forward and continue to fight because, we don't know what's going to unfold next, but we know that the chairman is building a movement. The party has built a movement that spans the globe and it can't die at this point, but we have to play a critical role inside of white society, behind enemy lines, and carry out our assignment and also bring back all those reparations and turn them back over to the African Revolution.
Oh, for real. For real. I totally unite Chairwoman Penny. I know we're coming to the end of our discussion here before we turn it back over to our MC, but I just wanted to appreciate that you brought up the whole question of the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign that the African People's Socialist Party has initiated, which has already been flooded with so much support from throughout the world.
Yes, really, really beautiful.
It's been incredible. And as you mentioned, there is going to be a major push in which the Uhuru Solidarity Movement will be playing a key role under the leadership of the party to raise ultimately hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, that will be required ongoing in the long term and the short term to wage this counteroffensive, as the chairman calls it, including but not limited to the expenses associated with assembling a strong legal team for the party and for this campaign that will be able to take offensive action, legal action even, against the US government and the FBI for what they have done to the African People's Socialist Party. And we want to make a commitment as the Uhuru Solidarity Movement that we will do everything that we possibly can to raise these resources and make it so that the goal of the FBI to drain the party of resources, they're building doula programs, they're building the Black Power Blueprint, the health center, the farmers market, all these things.
Can we talk about what during the raids, a whole doula training program was going on at the Uhuru House in St. Louis?
That is amazing.
And never stopped.
They never stopped.
It was amazing. And some contacts were there, some comrades in our movement were there, having the honor from the Solidarity Movement to be able to do photography and other kinds of AV work. And they said it was so powerful, it was so moving. To see not only the training, but the women talking about the conditions that they face.
Exactly.
Just attempting to have a child, to give birth under this colonial system.
That's all you need to know about the African People's Socialist Party right there. Whatever the slander is that comes out, all you need to know is that on July 29th, while the FBI was smashing through doors and pointing guns at Deputy Chair Onizane Shatella and Chairman Omali Shatella, their organization, our leadership, the African People's Socialist Party, was at work training 20 African women in the process of bringing African life into existence, of birth, healthy birth in the hands of African people themselves. This is the force of life and hope versus the force of death and destruction. Just in clear, stark contrast. And that makes it very clear. That's the class struggle. So which side are you on is the question. And being a part of the African People's Solidarity Committee, being part of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, joining the Uhuru Solidarity Movement by going to uhurusolidarity.org/join, becoming a member, getting active, volunteering, getting involved, being on the right side of history is the way forward. It is the future. And we are going to be making a call for people to donate to this campaign. There will be specific ways to do that moving forward. But right now, one way that you can donate to support the party's campaign in defense of the right of African people to organize for their liberation and unification is to go to handsoffuhuru.org and donate. You can go specifically to APSP as in African People's Socialist Party, apspuhuru.org/donate, and give whatever you can to this incredible campaign. Uhuru.
Uhuru, yes. Let's raise resources. Let's,
Yes.
we have to fight for this, and the party is winning.
Yes.
And we need
Absolutely.
to be out there tapping the stolen resources, and this is what reparations really means. I mean, that's, in this kind of campaign in particular. So we have to make sure that we are this buffer, that we do play the role that we're assigned behind enemy lines, win everything we can get. We're not going to let Chairman Omali Shatella go to jail or anything
Hell
happen
no.
to him.
Absolutely not.
We're going to fight for that.
Yeah.
We are going to build a movement in the white community that says that Chairman Omali Shatella and all African people have the right to
Yes.
fight for, to advocate for, to organize for the liberation of Africa and African people. And it's this way, just what we were saying earlier, that the African People's Socialist Party, it works here in St. Louis or in Philadelphia or in Oakland and other places, but it's not local. It deals with conditions of African people on a local level, but it's about the solution is uniting and liberating the entire African nation that has been forcibly dispersed around the world. And that's why it's attacked.
Right.
That is why it is attacked. If it were just building a doula program, because it would be good and helpful to the community, which it would, but that's not what this is about. And that's why the party is being raided. It has the stated goal of winning back Africa.
Right.
And Africa is so central to the whole world.
Right.
So there's so much, more analysis the chairman has been putting out, and we want to have more,
Yes.
discussions like this, and really go deeply into these things, and so many of the questions that the chairman has been raising, the centrality of Africa, the way that the three enemies, China, Russia, and Africa, that the US government has cited and sees, we can see that playing out in so many ways. So and definitely urge people to go to the Burning Spear YouTube channel to see the amazing presentations. Chairman on fire right now. On the Fox News, on many things, on
Democracy Now,
and many other media sources that have been very, very powerful to see. So I see some comments here.
Rude. We have some in the chat here. It's really blowing up. So I just really want to appreciate this study from Chairwoman Penny and Chair Jesse. This was really powerful, and I know that all our viewers online are really appreciating this just from the supportive comments. So I just want to shout out the people tuning in from around the country. We have people watching in Southern Illinois, Arcata, California, which is unceded Wyout territory, Louisiana, Kentucky, Boston, Massachusetts, St. Louis, Missouri, right here, Oklahoma, Fargo, North Dakota, Portland, Oregon, New York, and Minneapolis, Minnesota. So thank you everyone for tuning in. And we already have some comments and questions in the chat that have come in. So if you have other questions as you're watching this, there's still time. You can put them into the comments right now, and we will have people reading those. So there's one comment here from Paul on Zoom. They say it was an absolute abomination what those disgusting terrorist pigs did to the APSP. Absolutely shameful. And the APSP is still under the gun. The chairman said they expect indictments. That's just it. And what's the deal with Alexander Ivanov? The FBI seems to be basing their terrorist attack on their allegation that the APSP had ties to him. Maybe you could speak to that.
Well, we can't, or I'm not going to address anything specifically in the indictment right now, but I do want to say that all absurd.
Yes.
It is absolutely
Preposterous.
almost funny. I mean,
Almost, yeah.
you know, to
Laughable.
say that anybody, any African person would be influenced by a Russian.
Right.
When they're, you know, as the chairman says, Russians didn't kill George Floyd
Right.
or Mike
Exactly.
Brown.
Exactly.
The US government did. And
Right.
African people are very, very clear who the enemy is, and they don't
Yeah.
need anybody to
Yeah.
tell them that. They experience it every single waking moment and sleeping moment of their life. So that I will say. And they just make up absurd things. But there are no charges at this time.
Right.
And there were no charges when the chairman and others were handcuffed.
Right.
And they weren't even being detained.
Right.
When that question was raised, oh no, you can go.
Yeah.
I mean, it's there to intimidate, to try to terrorize African people. And I just want to say that.
And I agree. And the only other thing I wanted to say about it is that, just to reiterate the point that you were making earlier, that the main target of this attack was Chairman Omali Yeshitela for leading the African Revolution.
Mhm.
And the whole thing about somebody in Russia and indicting somebody in Russia is just a complete smokescreen, really.
Yeah.
It's really has nothing to do with it. In fact, the so-called laws that the US government implied they were looking for evidence of the party having violated are ones that, if indicted and convicted, could result in a greater prison sentence than the thing that they were supposedly charging the person in Russia with.
Yeah.
So clearly the attack was on the party and on the chairman for fighting for the liberation of Africa and African people. And I just wanted to go back to what you said earlier, Chairwoman Penny, that we're not going to stand by and do nothing while the US government tries to create the pretext for putting Chairman Omali Yeshitela in prison.
Mhm.
And I just feel like that's something everybody in the white community, everybody in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and beyond needs to like really take to heart. Like, you can, you know, I'm 32, so I wasn't alive when Malcolm X was around or when Martin Luther King or Fred Hampton, but I'm alive now in the period of Chairman Omali Yeshitela. I'm alive at the same time as Chairman Omali Yeshitela when he is at his height, at the height of success and power building the African Revolution.
Yes.
And I'm not going to just do nothing
Yes.
after the US government openly announces that their goal is to put the chairman in prison. That's their goal. And we cannot allow that to happen.
That's right.
We have to build a massive movement in the white community, the buffer that you talk about, that says like, no, that's not going to happen. We are not going to sit by and watch that happen. So I just wanted to say that, like,
Yes.
I feel like that's something we all have to really feel like in the pit of our stomach. Like, we're going to take this every single day, wake up and say, what can I do today to win more unity with the African People's Socialist Party, to win more unity with the role and work of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and APSC. That it is urgent, it is critical, and the party is going to win. And the chairman is like one of this beautiful solidarity statements that was sent in that said, Chairman Omali Yeshitela will be on the front lines when victory is won.
Yes.
And we are very confident.
It's very
about that.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Yes, I really appreciate that, because this is our chance, our opportunity to be something true and powerful and part of the whole world, part of the whole of humanity. This is our chance to do that. We're going to be something. We have the ability to be a real human being and human beings based on the openness of the African Revolution to letting us come and take this stand and empowering us organizationally and also scientifically for how to do it and why to do it and what it is that we have to say and do.
Yes.
And we've got to take this on, and we will. I know that we will, because there are so many white people who are looking for this opportunity to be part of the African Revolution, of the indigenous world, of the world that is going to be there when this vicious blood-sucking system is overturned.
Right.
And it is dying,
It's
but
going
not
down.
yet dead
Right.
as well.
True. So we have a comment and question from Conquering Kings broadcast on YouTube. They say, "You are brave individuals standing up against this beast. Hats off," with a fist up and a bunch of fire emojis. And then they ask a couple questions. Do you have a headquarters in Maryland or Baltimore? Do you have any camp or station in the west coast of Africa spreading the movement's revolution? And what's the plan to breed younger generation to carry the torch on behalf of the revolution movement? So are we in Maryland, in Africa, and young people coming involved?
Well, I would say that, first of all, the answer to those questions, you could go to the Hands Off Uhuru or email to info@apspuhuru.org and, go to the party's website and you can apply, or you can maybe ask to speak to somebody. There are organizers all over the world. That's the best thing I can say. I can't answer those questions. We are in the Solidarity Committee. Our goal is to build in the white community. And as far as to breed the younger generation, what we have to do is, we have to organize. We have to win people. What Chairman O'Malley Shatella is changing the ideas in people's heads, the war of ideas. We're so, just brainwashed by the system we live in. Every movie and Netflix and the newspaper and everything that we do every day has one premise, and that is the correctness and the legitimacy of this colonial mode of production. Right. And the chairman is tearing down all of those things that keep us tied to that and exposing it and saying, he's fighting the war of ideas. And that's what this is about. That's how we do have a younger generation here. We have a younger generation that's part of this, and the party and here, there's children who are part of it. It's here. It's not, it doesn't need breeding.
Right.
It's here.
It's happening.
It's here. It's doing it. So if you want to have more information on the African People's Socialist Party, please contact them. It's very, very easy to do. apspuhuru.org or handsoffahuru.org. And if you are, as we say, North Americans, if you're white people, you can go to uhurusolidarity.org and find out more about it. But thank you very much.
Yes.
Uhuru, thank you. So we have a comment and question from Ann Leslie. She says, Uhuru comrades, if anyone on tonight's call wants to help me read the Burning Spear newspapers from 1969 until now, researching where the party wrote about genocide. It's important defense work for the party, and it's amazing to read the party over the years. I'm wondering if anyone on the call wants to help with that. Anne was looking for people who want to help.
I really recommend that. And, when the African People's Solidarity Committee was formed in 1976, so the party was only 4 years old then. And I went to, the founding conference of that, and everybody who went, all the white people who came to it, got a big stack of spears, of old spears. Oh, wow. And I took them, I had them in my room, and every night I read another spear, and it was amazing. Wow. Then, and it's still amazing. And I think that, and I think all of the spears are pretty much archived. I don't know if every single one is, but most of them are archived on the burningspear.com website. And I think that you could find them there. And I agree, it would be a great study group. It would just be a really great organizing project to go through them. They're amazing to see. And the history of the party is there.
Virginia Wilson just signed up to help with that.
Oh, great.
And there's, Lisa put the link in to the archive. That's really cool. And there was also a comment from Virginia.
Yeah.
You want to read?
Uhuru, Virginia So Virginia in Louisville, Kentucky says, Ahuru comrades, really salute APSC Chairwoman Penny and USM Chair Jesse so very much. It's inspiring to see so many white people join in material solidarity with Black power and African liberation under the brilliant leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. African internationalism is a true lifeline in this messed up society. It really helps me to understand the many facets of colonialism, etc. I'm so glad I was introduced to African internationalism by joining the Ahuru Solidarity Movement under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party, and salute Chairman Amalia Chatella. So Ahuru, Virginia,
Uhuru.
right on.
Appreciate it. Virginia Wilson.
So that's, there's been just also a lot of comments overall, people talking with each other in the chat. So it's very dynamic discussion we're having, even online with each other. So I just want to see if either of you have any more comments, closing comments you want to share on this study from tonight.
Well, I just, again, want to salute Chairman O'Malley Shatella. I want to salute everybody who's here and wants to jump into joining the forward side of history, truly of a historical trajectory that inevitably will win. It is winning. African people will be free. Africa will belong again into the hands of African people. And it's just history. It's a mandate of history, and the leadership of the party has brought all the science to that and the will. And I want us to keep fighting to build this hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa, bring it to the white community. We need to have 100 times more people on these webinars than we do. We've got to win other white people, bring them here. This is the future. This is the way that we can be part of a world without war, without suffering, without bloodshed, without rape, without everything that we take for granted in this society. African people are winning. Hands off Uhuru, no compromise, no surrender. And the chairman is relentless, 50 years, vanguard up.
Vanguard up.
Uhuru.
Ahuru, thank you.
Jesse.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I unite with everything Chairwoman Penny said. It was an honor to be on this discussion with you. And thank you everybody who participated for all your comments and questions, and joined the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa fundraising committee. I want to make a plug for that. USM will be playing a role in coordinating that. It's open to everybody who wants to be a part of raising the funds for this important campaign. We're having our launch meeting on Monday night, September 5th at 7 p.m. Central. If you're interested, you can put it in the chat or contact me at info@uhurusolidarity.org. and get involved in raising these resources. And we'll be doing more events like this as well to raise the money, to get the word out. So it's going to be an exciting campaign. And I just want to close by saying, hands off Uhuru, hands off Africa. Uhuru.
Ahuru. Thank you, comrades. Yeah, this is a very exciting campaign, the Hands Off Ahuru campaign, that's very mass and everyone can and should be involved in that. So you can learn more at handsoffahuru.org to see how you can get involved. And we have just some closing announcements. So the Impedum Convention, this is the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement. They're having their annual convention. This is the mass organization of the African People's Socialist Party. This Friday through Sunday, September 2nd through the 4th. Friday will include a tour and just an event in the evening. And Saturday will include the One Africa, One Nation Market here in St. Louis. So it's live in St. Louis, and you can tune in from online. So you can register and learn more at inpdum.org and impedum.org. And the next announcement is that we are going on tour. We have the Days of Reparations to African People speaking tour starting very soon in the next couple of weeks, beginning September 13th in cities across the United States and culminating in the National March for Reparations to African People happening right here in St. Louis. So you got to be in St. Louis October 15th and 16th for our national epic March for Reparations and national conference. The conference will be on Sunday the 16th, which will also be live streamed But you gotta be here. Bring your comrades, bring your organization, bring your student groups. You gotta be here, and you can learn more and get signed up at uhuru solidarity.org. And if you're not already, become a member of Uhuru Solidarity at the same website. So, you know, if you're a white person and you really support and appreciate what we're saying tonight, become a member, pay reparations, and stand in support of the African People's Socialist Party. So the last, another announcement, join the O'Malley Taught Me Sunday Study. The chairman goes live every Sunday morning from 9 to 11 a.m. Central Time. That's 10 to 12 Eastern. This is where you can get more in-depth political education from Chairman Omali Yeshitela. He's live on facebook.com/omali.yeshitela or youtube.com/UhuruTV. And for more African International's news and analysis, you can subscribe to the Burning Spear newspaper. This is a monthly journal of the African People's Socialist Party. And you can also read it online at theburningspear.com/subscribe to get your subscription. You can order a bundle of newspapers to distribute in your community. We sell them for just $1, so you can get a whole stack and sell them to wherever you're located. And you can find more details about these and other upcoming events at theburningspear.com/events. It's a great events calendar. You got to check it out. And check out uhurusolidarity.org and apscuhuru.org to learn more about our organizations that were sponsoring this event tonight, Uhuru Solidarity Movement and the African People's Solidarity Committee, and how you can support white solidarity with Black power and unity through reparations. So just
there was one more.
One.
Zoya was asking if we can announce the film series, which I can do.
Oh, sure.
Okay,
yes.
So Zoya, thank you, Comrade Zoya here in St. Louis for reminding us that a week from tonight on Wednesday, September 7th, okay, we're having a film showing here in the Uhuru Solidarity Center in St. Louis, 2654 Gravois Ave. At 6:30 p.m., we're showing a documentary called The FBI's War on Black America. And that will be the beginning of a weekly film series, a film festival that we will be having to oppose and expose the FBI's war on African people and win unity with the Hands Off Uhuru, Hands Off Africa campaign. So every Wednesday night in September, we will be having a different film showing, including episodes from the documentary series Eyes on the Prize, The Murder of Fred Hampton, and of course, this one on September 7th, the FBI's War on Black America. So don't miss it. There will be popcorn, there will be great discussion, and it's going to be a fundraiser for the National March for Reparations to African People here in St. Louis on October 15th and 16th, right here in the Uhuru Solidarity Center, Wednesday night, September 7th, 6:30 p.m., 2654 Gravois Ave.
Uhuru. Thank you, Jesse, and just really appreciate Chair Jesse and Chairwoman Penny for leading the study tonight. And again, want to salute Chairman Omali Yeshitela and Deputy Chair Onezene Yeshitela for leading this incredible movement for African liberation. And just want to close by saying unity through
reparations.
Uhuru.